anyhow, we're open for business. Our office is physically closed, but we are online, the entire team, all day, every day. So if you're looking for training, for support and other things, we're here, and we're updating some stuff on the website in the next day or so to make it a little easier to access us. But you can catch us through the phone or by email. And technical issues, again, is to support at at CloseReach.ca. We're at fiscal year end, so we're going to be getting invoices out to customers as quickly as we can. Obviously, it's been extended a little bit, but I know there are a couple of amendments coming on the contract as well for some additional licensing. Other news, QualiWare 10.2 was released February 21st, and we have that up and running in our training environment, and there's some other customers, some of them already have it installed or in testing. And we're looking to take advantage of some of the new changes there. The translation, what we used to call the translation suite, is actually been upgraded and some changes made to it. I mentioned that in the newsletter. So that translation accelerator is what we're going to call it now. We've completed the testing on that, and we're just putting the documentation up on the support website so you could search for it, as well as it'll be up in the next day on the download site. So if you want to get access to that, you can email support@closereach.ca if you don't already have credentials. We've added to our so Scott Elmore just joined us in our technical support group. We added just as we went out, the week before we went out to work off site. So Scott has a lot of cloud experience, Office 365, application support, server infrastructure, networking type experience. So he's helping us. It's a good thing he's been around, because when we all had to start working remotely quickly, it solved a few problems for us, but he's been through a lot of the QualiWare training so far, and Rashab and he are working together on different things. So we are moving ahead with improving our technical support capabilities. Few customers have asked us if we could spin up a cloud environment for them quickly. And we have a couple of options for doing that. A couple of customers have problems because there's limited VPN access within their departments. And if you're interested in finding out what those options are, we can provide you with some detailed information. You can just email Cecile, and she will get that out to you. What else? I think Kevin? That's all I've got from the, yep.
Eric was asking if you could share which clients are using version 10 at this point.
I know that, actually, I don't know if anyone has it in production, but I believe shared services is imminent to going there. If I believe Denise's email from earlier today. I don't know if she's on, but
ESDC is on version 10 production.
There you go.
Yes, ESDC is.
Yeah.
And James is putting in the chat. CBSA is on 10.1. Thanks,
yeah.
James.
We're on 10.2 actually.
Who was this?
Yep.
What I was talking to? I'm sorry.
Carol from ESDC.
Oh, hi, Carol. Thank you. Thanks for sharing.
So when we move, people move up to 10. We're recommending go to 10.2. I mean, it might be a multi-step process, but there's no sense stopping at an earlier version. Some of the new capabilities in 10.2, you're definitely going to want to take advantage of. Some of the data visualization capabilities that we've demonstrated at different times. You know, obviously the spreadsheet tool and other things that have been enhanced. So, Jacob, any QualiWare news you want to share with us? Jacob's no longer in New York, everyone, just so you know. He's on a little island off the coast of Sweden. But
he took his news away. He doesn't have any news.
Yeah, it's a,
Go ahead,
a little Danish island in the Baltic Sea. Yeah, I got out of New York right before Trump the borders. I don't think I have many news from QualiWare since our last user group meeting. QualiWare, like any other company, is all employees are working from home, but we are not. There are none of our services that have been closed down in any way, shape, or form. So we are still good, up and running. If we look ahead a little bit, version 10.3 will be scheduled to be out after Easter, probably a week after Easter, as it looks right now. I don't have anything to tell you about the content of that one, so that would definitely be a topic for the next user group meeting.
Great.
Yeah.
All right. Do we want to do a quick round table just so people can say who they are and who's here? Cecile, you can kind of see people online a little better than anybody else. But.
Sure. We're gonna start in alphabetical order because that's the way they're presented in my attendees panel. So Anthony.
Yeah, Anthony Bianco, business analyst for CloseReach, currently working at Queedy.
Great. Thanks, Anthony. Thanks for joining. Anton?
Yes, good afternoon. Anton Basilov, Canada Border Services Agency. I work for the enterprise architecture and using QualiWare for the data architecture part of it.
Great. Thanks for joining, Anton. And Atul, I see you were able to get connected.
Yeah, Atul Srivastava from Global Affairs Enterprise Architecture.
Thanks, Atul. And Brenda.
Hi, Brenda Hines. I'm currently working at D&D and working with MEPM. And also just initially was working with real property folks, but since the COVID thing that has slowed off a bit, but I'm sure we'll pick up.
Great. Thank you, Brenda. And Carol?
Hi, Carole Ranger. I work for ESDC and Enterprise Architecture EA Services, and we're on QualiWare 10.2 since January, and it's working pretty good.
Great. Thank you very much for joining, Carol. Christine.
Oh, hi, Christine Gong. I'm a MET contractor working for the D&D MEPM for the enterprise architecture.
Great. Nice to have you join us, Christine. Thanks. And Dan?
Dan Allen from CRA in the IT architecture program, and we're on QualiWare version 6.6.
Thank you, Dan. Mr. David Gray.
Hi, David Gray. I currently working for Dynamite. That's the engineering group at D&D as a CloseReach contractor.
Great. Thanks, Dave. Thanks for joining. And Denise.
Hi, everyone. I'm Denise Waverdingley, contractor, currently on assignment at Shared Services Canada. We're on version 10.2.
Thanks, Denise. Doug.
Hi, I'm Doug McDonald. I'm an ED contractor as well, working with DG MEPM building their architecture. We're currently on version 6.6.
Thank you, Doug. Thanks for joining. Elizabeth.
Hi, Elizabeth Bookhart here. I'm with PSPC. We just upgraded to 10.2 last week.
Great. Thank you, Elizabeth. And Eric.
Hi, everybody. Eric Sheik from D&D QuiDi, the Quality Engineering Test Establishment. We're working off version 6.6 and dabbling into version 10. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Eric. Ian. Ian, you would be on mute. Okay, we'll come back to Ian. Jacob.
Hey, I'm Jacob from QualiWare. So, yeah, I think most of you guys already know you. Besides talking today, I'm pretty much the guy who gets every time Kevin is unhappy about something, he will call me. and so now you know where it ends up. Sorry.
That's okay. Thank you, Jacob. Glad that you could join us this evening. I appreciate it. James.
Yes, hi, James Chong from CVSA Enterprise Architecture Program, and I'm in charge of anything related to QualiWare at CVSA. We are at 10.1. We just upgraded in February. Our upgrade process is not as quick, so next version that we'll be upgrading will be whenever the next year it is. Anyways, yep. So.
Okay. Thank you, James. Thanks for joining. Jason.
Jason Simmons. I'm a information data architect at CVSA.
Okay, great. Thank you, Jason. Thanks for joining. John.
Hi, John Harton. I do some corporate strategy stuff with Kevin from CloseReach.
Thank you, John. Kevin, would you like to introduce yourself? Nope, Kevin's being shy.
Oh, sure, Jacob, throw me under the bus. The only reason I called to complain is about the documentation.
I know.
Okay, Kirill.
Yes, hello everyone. This is Kirill Kasianenko. I am an employee of CloseReach.
Thank you, Kirill. Michael Seeger.
Hi there, it's Michael Seeger. I'm with Optimal Business Solutions Management Consulting Company. We use QualiWare for our clients who have customer-facing personnel. We help them accelerate training and as a real-time user guide to improve performance.
Great, thanks for joining.
How are things where you are, Michael? How are things, Michael, where you are? You're in the U.S. right now. Yeah, in New York, and it's I'm outside of New York City, but it's pretty terrible in the city. Hasn't gotten as bad. I'm about 45 minutes north of New York City, in a kind of a country town called Croton-on-Hudson, on the Hudson River. So it's pretty strange, strange. I hope everyone is well and stays well. Thanks.
Thank you. You too.
Thanks.
Mr. Haley.
Hi, another solution partner, Mike Haley with Landmark Decisions here in Halifax on the East Coast. And we work with QualiWare in the development of an application called Collaborative Business Planning that I think we showcased a user group meeting ago.
Great, thank you, Mike. Hey, Scott.
Okay, I'm Scott. I'm with CloseReach. I'm brand new. I'm with the support department, so I'm figuring out how to break everything properly.
That's great. Thank you. Sergio.
Hello, I'm Sergio from ESDC, just an analyst with the architecture team working on a project.
Great. Thank you, Sergio. Glad to have you join us. Tammy.
Hi, I'm Tammy Evans. I'm with the Architecture Center of Excellence with Shared Services and work with Denise quite a bit.
Great. Thanks, Tammy. Glad you could join us. Terrence. Terry, if you're talking, we can't hear you. Okay, I think Terry must be having some audio issues. We'll move on to Yves.
Hi, I'm Yves Roy. I used to work for the federal government for over 30 years, and now I'm available to help any department in BPM, Lean, Six Sigma, etc.
Great. Thanks for joining us, Yves. Nice to have you here.
Hi.
Okay, Terry, I'm sorry. I see that you've unmuted, but we're not getting your audio, so you'll have to say hi through the chat panel to everybody. Kevin, I think that's everybody that introduced themselves, which is great. Nice to see some new folks join. And I think if there's nothing else from you, we'll pass things over to Jacob.
Yep, turn it over to Jacob.
Okay, sounds good. Jacob, are you ready if I give you control?
Yeah.
Okay.
Should be okay.
Great. Okay, thanks very much. Here you go.
So let me know when you see my screen.
Yep, I can see it now. You've got your QualiWare home screen up.
Okay. So first of all, for those of you who were on that Friday, was it Friday morning meeting presentation I did for on the data modeling, this is going to be the same thing. I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the new data modeling features that we introduced in 10.2. I think CloseReach, you're going to request that we do the questions at the end of this. Is that correct?
Yes, we can do it. Which actually, Jacob, that's a really good question. We can do it either way. I can monitor the chat and do them as we go, or we can save everything for the end. What's your preference?
I don't care. I'm fine digging into questions during the demo. So if that helps when questions pop up when I talk, then
sure.
All right.
So why don't we do that? If folks have questions as Jacob's going through, put them in the chat panel, and I'll interrupt him at the appropriate spot when he takes a breath.
Perfect. So I'm gonna instead of just doing PowerPoint, I'm gonna actually use the tool to do a little data modeling in here and show how we can move between the conceptual, logical, and physical layer in the data models. And again, as I do this, whatever questions you might have, just fire off, and then we'll take them as we go. The first part here is we have a new type of diagram in here called a data modeling structure. And basically, the data modeling structure is a way to kind of lay out all the different subject areas that you're going to model up or describe. So subject area typically represents something like an IT system or a system in general. But I should say before I continue, I am not a data modeler. So there's going to be very easy for you guys to ask me questions where that I will not be able to answer. So again, I'm just going to go through some of those new features in here. So if I do a new subject area in this model, it will pop up and ask me if I want to start with an empty data model. So if I say yes to this, then it'll automatically open up a new conceptual data model. So if I just close this one and go back and have a look at the subject area that I just created, you will see that it has created a conceptual data model and associated that with the subject area. Now, what I can do on these subject areas, I can double click on these, and if there are any models associated with the subject area, they will pop up in as a little pop-up menu. And when I click on them, they will be able to take me to the data model. So this is a regular type of conceptual data model. So I can do a ball and some fruit and put in regular type of relationships in here. So conceptual data modeling, there's nothing special about this, but what we can do now is you can go up through the tools menu and you can ask the system to convert your, in this case, a conceptual data model to a logical data model. So the second you do that, it'll ask if it should create relationships, and now it will automatically generate that logical data model based on your conceptual data model. And now you can go in and start to build your conceptual model. So I can do my ball ID. I can go in and assign it a data type. We can go in and if you open the key up here, the primary key for the data entity, it'll automatically ask which key to use, and then you get the key information defined for, in this case, the primary key on the ball. And I can go in and I can create a description. And again, go in and define the data type. We can do that on the fruit as well. Do a fruit, fruit ID, give it an int, go up, associate the key, and we can add a description to this one here as well. Define it as a string. When I open the relationship here, there is no key foreign keys defined in here, so these two are empty. If I leave them empty and just close here without defining them, the system will pop up and analyze and ask you if you want to use the ball as the primary key in here. And what happens now is you'll see that in the data entity, the ball ID is now included in here as the foreign key. So now we have those defined as well. The data models, the logical data models in here, you can go in if you want. There's a show hide, so you can show all the information in here. So if you want to see both the keys and the fields in here, you can opt to show them directly on the diagram instead of having to open the objects. And now finally, I can go and convert this to the physical layer, and it'll ask me if it should generate relationships and indexes. And if I say yes to both, we will now get the physical data model in here, meaning we now have tables and indexes associated with them. So we have tables defined, and you can see the indexes defined on each of these as well. So the idea with this structure here is the ability to take your data model and have the tool help you move between the different abstraction layers in your data model. If I close these here and go back to my data model structure, when I double click on my subject area, you'll see that now I have both the conceptual, logical, and physical model in here, and whichever I click will be opened directly. So it'll handle those as well. So the idea is that this data modeling structure is where we can orchestrate all our subject areas. Now, before I move into generating DDL and reverse engineer, are there any questions on this so far?
There does not appear to be any questions in the chat at the moment.
I have a quick question. When you initially created this, did you use the data modeling structure, or did you use the conceptual data model template?
I actually used I used the data modeling structure and added the subject area in here, and there's a reason for that. If I go in here and we look at the data models here, and when we convert from one to the other, if I go in here, let me just pick up, we have different data types available in here. So when we go in on a data type, you'll see that there are different types available to define the data type. They come from my subject area. So when I have these subject areas in here, I actually have something that is called a physical implementation. And what this one in here, you can see that by default, it'll use ANSI SQL. But the type of database you might have behind the scenes will define what type of data types you will have available for those different type definitions when you do the data modeling. So that is the reason why these are linked up against a modeling structure. It's not required. There's no problem in you starting with just modeling out a conceptual data model, and you can always associate a conceptual data model with any of these subject areas from the data modeling structure. Did that make sense? Let me maybe what I'll try to do now is try to link this up against an existing database and do some reverse engineering and try to explain why we do the way we do. So let me create another subject area here. We'll call it Northwind. This time I will not create a conceptual data model. In here I have my template, but let me create a new one. So I'll do my wind. And what you'll see in here is I have different type of databases. So in here, beside the ANSI SQLs, I have a DB2, I have a Microsoft SQL Server, and an Oracle. So I can choose a SQL Server in here. And when I choose a SQL Server, there will be some default settings in here. I'm not going to go through those in this one. It's just all about how we do the reverse engineering in here. But what I have now is I have set up my subject area and I have defined the type of database. And now I can go in and say I want to link up a new relational diagram. So now I have added a relational diagram to my subject area. When I double click and select physical, it will now open an empty physical data model. If I right click on the data model, you'll see that up here I have something called a data source. So I already have a data source in here defined. Let me just open this one so you can see what it is. So this is a data source connection with a server name. The provider, that is the how we connect to the database. There is some connection data in here, and then if we go and look at the catalog here, so let me just see if I can open this one for you. You'll see that this one here is set to connect to the database through the server. So that means even though you have a lot of clients, meaning QualiWare applications up and running here, they will all be communicating to this database through the server. So that'll solve some of the network and access rights permissions in there. On the catalog here, if I click this one, it should be able to look up and find all the databases defined on this SQL server. And in here I have my Northwind database. I'll just add a TXT in here and I'll explain to that in a second. Again, there are some default settings that I can define in here. I'll come back to that in a second. But what I have now is I have a relational data diagram. I've added a connection to a physical server with a specific database defined. What I can do now is I can go up through my menu and ask the system to do a reverse engineer of this database. It now has looked at the SQL server, and as you can see, it finds a set of tables and the associated schemas. So it can separate between the different schemas as well. And you can select specific tables or just ask the system to import all the tables available in the database. And it'll now start to run through that database and slowly build up all the different content in terms of tables, indexes, attributes, and relationships. So, here we go. And let's see here. And now we have all the tables, and we can start to see if we can make this look just a little bit nicer. Now, there's a couple of things that that has happened in here right now. First of all, you have all the tables generated. If I go in and open the tables, you'll see that now we have all the columns defined as well. We have each field with the right data types. The indexes have been imported in here, so if there are multiple indexes, they will all pop up, and you can see those as well. So all the regular type of data model type of information is defined in here. If I go and look at the diagram itself, what we'll see in here is that there are some physical information in here as well, all coming from the database. So besides importing data that is relevant for the data model itself, we are also importing information about the server it comes from, and we're picking up pretty much as much information as we can. So as you can see here, and there's the server version of the SQL server. If I dig into the database files, we'll see that we can go very deep, and we can even see if we dig far enough the actual files. So this is the file where this particular database is stored in. So this is a lot of information that is not really interesting maybe for a data modeler, but what this can be used for is documentation. It can be used as documentation for where do you have the information residing in your organization, which servers, which physical files actually contains this information. That can be relevant for many reasons. One of them is data security and the ability to identify exactly where information is stored. So if you, again, and I'll come back to this model in a little bit and talk about DDL as well, but I can also take this physical model and I can do conversion the other way. So before I took from the conceptual through the logical to the physical, this time I can take it from the physical and I can move it up to the logical layer. Now it'll start to build a logical data model based on that physical model that I had defined. Now let's just let it generate this one. There we go. Now, one of the things that we often see, and I'm going to come back in a little bit talking about how we can take these data models and link them up against other type of architecture and show how information resides and move around in the organization. But if I go in and look at these data entities that we have here, we have the ability to go in and define classification on these, like what sort of information classification here. Is this open? Is it internal information? Is it restricted? Is it classified? Does it contain personal sensitive data in them, or is it just common personal data, or is it not categorized at all? So this gives me the ability to take my physical databases that are running in the organization, suck them in here as a relational data model, and then lift them up to a data entity level and start to add information classification in here. I should mention though that this information classification, if we go in and have a look here, you can add that information classification on the attribute level as well. So you can use this to do some sort of aggregation of data classification. And I'm going to show you some reporting we can do on that as well. So it all depends on what really makes sense and why you are using this. But it is possible to add those type of information to these data models as well. Any questions on anything I have? No?
You know, I don't have anything in chat. No, everybody's still here. And, I don't have any questions in chat. If anybody wants to unmute and ask a question, feel free.
All right. As you can see, there are these little green dots on the diagram here on the tables. So these talk about changes. Have any changes been applied to the data model? So right now, if I go in here and I press the generate DDL, what we'll see up here is this system's ability to generate a complete set of DDL to generate this this data structure in a database, in a SQL database. But what we can also do in here is if I go in and I start to change something in here. So let's see here, the address. I want this to be a little longer. I'm going to change it to 80. what you'll see is this little green dot now turned yellow. So if I go back and instead of generate my create DDL, I can create update DDL. And what it'll do now is it'll create the DDL required to apply the changes that I have added in here as well. So it's possible for this system to go in and monitor those changes and use it to maintain these type of data models as well. And it also works the other way. So if I have a data model here where I just deleted a table, if I go in and do the reverse engineer again, it'll go in and find the changes and apply those changes to the data model. So it's possible to maintain this always. Also, it's not just a one-off type of generation of these data models. Yeah. Any questions so far?
I have a question.
Shoot.
I see you're creating tables with entities in them and relations, and so there are foreign keys and other things. But there is also the opportunity to define constraints that are outside of that, outside of referential integrity, etc. And I think that's what I know in my report I had recommended a change to it, but there's something called a complex relation that is there to allow you to do that. When Eduardo demonstrated this to me, he wasn't generating the DDL to implement those constraints, so they still had to be coded by hand. Is that still the case?
I have no idea.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm not even good enough to be able to repeat that question to Eduardo, so I would need that in writing to make sure that
he'll remember if you mention it. He'll
Okay.
remember it. Okay.
All right. Great. Cool. Now, what I want to do now is show a little bit on how we can take these logical data models and link them up against our architecture and do different type of analysis on them. So for that purpose, I'm gonna jump into our web front end here. And I'm gonna start with looking at a process model in here. So if I pick any process model, you'll see that we're any process or activity will have a field on them. If you open the dialog, either on the web or inside QLM, there will be an attribute in here called users information. The idea with this attribute in here is the ability to talk about where in the organization, from a process point of view, information is either being created, read, updated, or deleted. So that means if I go in here and click insert, you'll see that all the data entities that you have from your from that data model will be available in here. And I can pick any of these, and I can talk about whether this process has a create, read, update, or delete relationship with this particular set of information. This is very important when you talk about any sort of cybersecurity or information certification like the ISO 27001, where you really need to be able to document where in the organization the different type of people information is either produced or consumed. You will have the same type of attribute on information systems. So if I go and pick up a application architecture model in here. So here I have a set of applications. If I take any of these applications and open the dialog for those, you will see the same type of using information attribute in here. And there we go. We have it here, information. And you'll see that we have the same list of data entities in here and the ability to define whether we have a create, read, update, or delete relationship with these. So again, when you do the insert, you have the data entities here. You could on this just link to the entire subject area. So if you have a subject area representing this IT system and you don't want to go into the lower level of details, you can actually link the subject areas directly up on this level as well. The idea with doing this type of mapping and linking this type of information up is that you can now go use the system to do different type of reporting. So I can ask the system to show me all the processes and what information they are dealing with. So here we have all the processes. Now here I can see the information that each of these are dealing with. But I can also turn this around, and instead of looking at it from a process point of view, I can go into my information architecture here, and I can look at information usage. And what this one will do is it'll create a report for me where I have all the information that I have defined in my repository. I can now see the security, classification, and privacy level of this information. I can see exactly what data structures these are a part of. So if I want to find out where that account information is, I can click on that data structure and it can show me that data, that underlying data model. And I can also see which processes are using that information and which IT systems are using this. These tables in here, I hope you remember that you can pivot in here. So if I take my classification and drag up here, change the sort order, I now get all the information that has the classification restricted listed up first. And I can put the privacy level in as the second, and again, change the sort order. And now I suddenly have on the top here all the information that is both restricted and deemed personal, sensitive personal data. And I can now see exactly which of these processes are dealing with these, and the same with the IT systems. So again, this could be the type of analysis that could be important if you need to do cybersecurity type of initiative. It's really important for risk management as well, because there are definitely risks associated with all of these that need to be defined, and then the mitigation setups will have to be defined as well. I talked a little bit before about aggregation as well. So if we take kind of a combination of the process hierarchy that we have in here, and all this information, the classification and privacy level. And I have an example in here of what we call a sensitive data view. And the idea with this view is to find processes, then iterate through the process hierarchy and find out if any of these processes are further elaborated in some sort of workflow diagram or BPMN diagram. And what you'll see out here under IT systems and users information is an aggregation where it lists up all the IT systems and information that will eventually be made available to this process. And what you see out here is the highest level of information classification and privacy level this information has. And that means these processes you have here will be under extra scrutiny when you go through any sort of audit or certification process. So whether it's cybersecurity or your information certification type of initiatives, this is the type of report you would use to justify why you put extra scrutiny on some processes versus others. Yeah. It's very, very quiet. So
I have a question.
People to sleep. Yeah, go.
I have a question. Yeah. It's from Eric, and he asked, can you track social behavior when content is consumed by a user on the example you just demonstrated, the ISO process?
Yeah, there's no, the way the social behavior warehouse works in here, it actually tracks every single object you look at. So it doesn't matter which angle you look at it from, it'll be able to register that and make it part of that behavior analysis the system can do. So yes.
Okay, great. Thank you, Eric. Let me know if there's anything else that you want to ask. Okay, he says fine. Thank you.
The I did a presentation earlier on in one of the user group meetings on risk management. Now, all of this ties into the risk management setup as well. So you can go and ask the system for the risk assessment. So if you have done risk assessment on information, so you can see here that there are different sets of information here that have risks associated with them, and there are even controls in place to mitigate those. All of these are in green, so it all looks fine, but the risk assessment and the risk management setup in here will work on the information dimensions in here, as well as any just the same way as it'll work on any of the other architecture dimensions in the tool. Yeah, I think that was about what I was going to talk about from an information security point of view, or information architecture point of view.
Great. Everybody's still here, so don't. Nobody abandoned you, Jacob. So thank you. Thank you very much for your presentation. Did you have anything else, or was that everything?
I don't have anything else for the information architecture. So I can show you a little bit of yeah.
I do have a question. I have a question about something non-related, but go ahead, please, if there was someone else that was just jumping in.
Jacob, you had last time showed some people some of the new functionality around displaying how information is connected. In the visualize capability.
Yeah. Oh, let's see here if I can remember what I used for that one.
I think the grab operations, yeah.
Yeah. The data visualization has been updated in this tool. So for those of you who are in some of the previous demos, what we this thing about showing data in tables is great for some type of tasks, but for others it becomes a little bit hard to figure out if there are correlations or dependencies in the data model that haven't really been clear. And I think, let's just see if I didn't really prepare to show this one today. So let's see if I can show this one here. No, this is the old one. Yeah, I don't have that loaded, Kevin.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Yeah, it's a feature that will be released in the 10.3. So that was a part of the coming features I did. I didn't load this one for this demo.
it took things from a 2D dimension to a 3D, and you could rotate the visualization to get different viewpoints on it.
Yeah, and that'll definitely, it'll be part of the next user group when we show 10.3. Yeah.
Cecile, you had someone else?
Yes, I did. I was talking and you weren't listening because I was on mute. I had a question from Elizabeth, and she was asking if 10.3 is going to have spell check included.
Where is spell check missing now? Is it, are we talking QLM or in the modeling tool, or are we talking on the web front end?
That's a good question. Elizabeth, did you want to expand on that? She might have had to drop. Oh, she's trying to take herself off mute. Okay, let me see if I can. Oh. Yeah, I see your microphone is muted, Elizabeth, and I can't unmute it because you've muted it yourself. Mute request.
Hi, can you hear me now?
Okay.
Yes.
We can.
So previously, a couple of releases ago, there was no problem under tools when you're building the maps. There was under tools, there was an option for spell check. And when the last release came out, I asked my SSC contact, hey, are we getting spell check back? No. And then 10.2 came out and I said, hi, did we get spell check back? And we're still missing that. It used to be a tool that was easily accessible, and now it's just not there. So I'm just wondering, is that tool going to be added in a release in the future? Because I used it all the time.
I don't know. I will need to check, but we will definitely follow up on that.
Because I guarantee I'm not the only one that ever used it, and it was extremely beneficial.
Okay. But yeah, I will definitely check up on that.
Perfect.
I made a note of that too. Great. Thanks, Elizabeth.
No problem.
Can I go back to the data modeling tool again for a moment? I want to talk about subject areas slightly. No way. You're not slow, Jacob. That's for sure. You know, this is where you create your data model structure, and I can see you mean this to be the place where subject areas get put into a diagram, and you can have connections among them if you wish. But I also noted when you went to the logical model, there's a subject area symbol there. What can go into a subject area at this point? Is there a danger that there could be an overlap of content of subject areas if you included things in here that were in fact already included elsewhere?
No, so the reason it's in here is that if you have a subject area and a data entity encapsulated in here, so we have sorry, what was the other way around? So you can have data models in here, right? Mm-hmm. So now we have something in here, and it's pointing to something from the outside, but we don't want it to be part of the models that we're generating. It's just indicating that there's a reference to an external data that is not really part of this and will not be included when you do the DDL or the migration. That's why there is a data entity or subject area in here. So the idea with the subject area in here is to really frame data entities that are really outside the scope of this one, just to but still to be able to illustrate that there's an external reference.
Okay, you put a new subject area in here, but could that actually be a subject area out there in your data model structure. Okay, all right. So this is a way of putting what's in this subject area in context, in some detail with other subject areas. This is where you would do it. Okay, excellent, excellent. Is there anything else you can do with that subject area that might violate that rule?
I don't know. Yes, I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions from anyone? Okay.
So I'm running on a tethered phone line here on a small island in the Baltic Sea. So just bear with me. But I want to show you something about that is coming up in our next release of QualiWare hosted in Azure. So I have a little icon here called QualiWare Architect. And we'll see if I have enough connection through to the outside world here to be allowed to run this. So you'll see here that it'll open a new tab in my browser where there is a QualiWare Architect. And when I click this one, it will see if I can. So this is connecting to the installation running in Toronto. So I'm connecting.
You might be pushing it.
But the idea here is that while I have one tab in my browser with my publishing site, I can actually open another tab in here, and I should be able to run QualiWare inside a browser. So with zero client installation in here, so you'll see that I actually have QLM running in here. So now it's running in the browser tab. So this should make it fairly simple to access a QualiWare modeling tool from pretty much anywhere. It's a very simple way of using QLM. So an HTML5 version of QualiWare. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. But I'll show you more of that at the next user group.
Stay tuned for the next user group meeting.
Yeah.
Which will probably be virtual. Well, it will be for you anyway. We know you're not.
Yeah, we'll see how long it'll take to open up. Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
Great. Thank you. Thank you very, very much, Jacob. Kevin, did you? Oh, wait. We have questions. I have questions. This is from Eve. I have questions outside of your presentation objectives, like related to the analytics area and business process performance dashboard.
Okay.
Okay. If you want to ask questions, sure.
Okay. Hi. Yeah, I'm looking at. I'm pretty new with the QualiWare actually, but I've been using other system in the past. I look at your the screen right now. You have application management, risk management, enterprise architecture, enterprise design, analytics, and I'm wondering. And sorry if I don't know too much about your product right now. How do you could you extract information from that system, from the data, to identify? To extract analytics like data from the process itself. I think my understanding is QualiWare is not a process engine, but could you modelize, even do some process simulation at some point, so we can extract some data from it and analyze it for improvement? Process improvement, actually.
Yeah, I mean, this is, I mean, you can do that from a compliance perspective, but if we are talking about your workflow automation systems, I have an example here of a process from where we got data from a process, and this was a process that was automated through the IBM workflow automation. And here we got actual performance data from the workflow engine in here to present together with these models. It talks a little bit about how much time we actually spend on each of these. So there are ways of hooking up to external data sources and do different type of performance measurements and kind of lining them up against each other if you use this for decision making. But you're not really doing the simulation inside this tool. You're taking the data from wherever you have those performance data available and associating them with the models.
Okay, so it's possible to extract the data from that model and then import it into whatever tool you use, a statistical tool, and then you can analyze the data from that point.
Yeah, I mean, the BPMN, when we go through to those, that IBM workflow automation, we take the BPMN diagrams and export them into, I think, XPDL. It might also be BPMN file format, I don't remember. And then the system will automatically execute it. And then we actually take some, this is a little bit technical, but these workflow automation systems have a tendency of, or a lot of them generate JSON files today. So they put a kind of a million JSON files out. And we actually use the IBM, there's an open source project called the Elastic, which is basically a full text search engine that can do analytics. So that was able to very quickly sum up these different JSON files and take the process data back into QualiWare. But there's a lot of different, it depends a lot on the different systems and where you have them available. Fortunately, there's a pretty decent amount of standards today, so it's not like a fully custom development project to get these connections up and running. There's some irony in X-Files theme going on in the background.
Oh, that's my phone.
That was interesting. That was cool.
All right, sorry.
If I need more information, where could I find it from QualiWare, like their website, or you have any contact name in this area that I could further investigate?
Or just reach out to CloseReach and we'll set up a meeting and go into details. We can spend 30 minutes on the WebEx and this and then go through it so you have the information you need. No problem.
Okay.
Yves, I can add to you that we have a consultant working with us at ESDC, and he was able to show me a scenario using a business process directly into QualiWare, and I thought that was really cool. So I don't know if that's what you're looking for, but if it is, I can certainly have him connect with you and maybe give you a few pointers as to how to do that.
Yeah.
Is that what you're looking for?
Yeah, well, at least to start the discussion and find out, because I mean, there's a lot of people, organizations putting a lot of effort in modeling process, etc. But when it comes to analyze that and see how we can really improve, that's a big step actually for them.
So Yves, what is your Yves Roy, right? So
yes.
So Yves.ROY, and what's your email address?
It's actually Yves, YVES, P like Philip, Roy, ROY, @hotmail.com.
Okay.
I think you have my email in your
Carol, is this you?
Yep.
Okay, so it's Cecile. Carol, I can share Eve's email from the registration with you, and I'll put you both in the email so you both have each other's contacts.
Okay, sounds great.
Cool.
I can't promise you it's going to be immediate though, Eve, because we're a little bit disorganized right now. But as soon as we have a little bit of cycle, I'll be happy to connect you with our consultant.
Perfect.
Okay.
Only a few changes happening to ESDC's programs these days.
Yeah, really.
It's well, I mean, we have 1 million people who applied for UI.
Yeah.
And all of the service centers are closed, so I'm going to become on standby to help out with their backlog for the help desk. Like everybody, enterprise architecture are being asked to give them a hand.
Yep.
But in the meantime, I mean, we're leveraging Microsoft Teams, and we're still able to do our work all day long, you know. Yep. I don't know. I don't know how long this is going to go, but we're starting to get used to Office 365 now, and Azure and all those types of tools that were in the works, but because of what's happening, they fast-track those projects. So we're just, you know, pulled into learning a whole whack of new technologies as we're trying to do our work. So that's what's disrupting right now.
Yeah,
Eve,
sure.
one of the things that you're talking about as well, a little bit of what Landmark has been doing with QualiWare in terms of identifying major activities in a process and actually taking real-time work study times, you know, to do certain things. And they've got a model built that allows them to look at utilization, unit costs, and the financial implications of all of that as well, and resourcing constraints. So there's a few different things that that are going on in that space.
Nice.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll be in touch. We'll exchange email and work from there, maybe. Yeah.
On another note, Kevin, I was wondering, currently we have very limited access to the network at ESDC because only the essential people are privileged to access the bandwidth. And so we're basically working on our personal computers right now. And I was wondering, because of this epidemic thing, if we could download QualiWare on our local workstation and to have licenses available for us to at least download our files so that we can continue our work. Because right now we have no access to QualiWare.
So the issue that you have with doing that with version 6 and above is that there's an integration server that sits and does the connections between the publishing and published users and the modeling developers. So when we run our courses, for example, we have a complete configuration on a single laptop. Well, or at least we did. And that was a Windows server, a SQL Server database, and IIS, and everything running on that one laptop.
Yeah.
The difficulty you're going to find as an architecture group is sharing information between all those individual machines. So Global Affairs, for example, doesn't have their infrastructure, their QualiWare instance on the government network.
Okay.
We're actually running a QualiCloud instance, and we have set up an Azure environment for them. Data is encrypted at rest and encrypted in transit, and they are accessing that from whatever machines they want through a remote desktop, and they have their full QualiWare implementation up and running there.
Wow. Is Luke aware of that?
Cecile, did we send something out to the primary contacts?
At ESDC, yeah, Luke is aware.
Okay. All right. So maybe we're.
So you go beat them up.
No, I'll just touch base with him tomorrow morning and ask.
Yeah, and to spin something like that up really would only take 2 or 3 days.
Wow. Sounds like a plan. Okay. Thank you very much.
No problem. Any questions from anyone else? Not necessarily related to today's demonstration. Anything? We've got Jacob on the line here, guys. So
it's getting late,
eh,
Jacob?
I'll live. I have alcohol. This is the good thing about dinner.
Oh.
No, I'm good.
Okay. Well, if no one else has any questions, we're going to call the meeting a little early today, and we'll work to have a full 2-hour meeting for the end of April.
I just have one thing to add. We have made some changes to our QEP instance, and I'm afraid that we went a little overboard and that we've removed a lot of functionality that shouldn't have been removed. So it'd be nice if at some point we could use maybe Jacob to guide us to see, okay, well, we shouldn't have removed this. We should, you know what I mean? Like go through the menu items for information and for risks and making sure that we still have those functionalities available in the tool. So I can see an opportunity for us to have a need like that in down the road.
Yeah, you can arrange that through us.
Okay,
Carol.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah. And then we'll bring whatever resources we need to bear for that.
Okay.
Yeah.
In fact, I actually think we have Sam on part of the task authorization for ESDC.
Yeah.
And he could easily do that. So.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Okay.
Thanks.
And Carol, you can.
I
you'll have
imagine,
my
I
contact
imagine he has a
information.
few cycles right now, eh, Jacob? Sitting in his apartment in New York City.
Yeah. He's right in the middle of it.
Stay safe.
All right.
Okay.
If no one
everybody.
has anything else, we'll call the meeting. Thank you very much.
All right.
And,
Excellent.
if anybody has any questions, we are dealing with the people in PSPC for the maintenance and support, which is coming up, so that we can get that managed and out of the way early, which I know Jacob will appreciate. And we'll keep everybody informed. We are updating the CloseReach website on a regular basis with new news, different functionality, and additional documentation that we're developing. So please take a look there, as well as our training is, as I said before, is all being delivered virtually now. So
really?
You can, yes.
No more in class?
Not right now.
Oh, okay. I see what you mean. Okay. I thought
right
it was
now.
a new initiative.
We will always have from now on. Well, once we're out of the sort of lockdown, instructor-led in-class training and instructor-led virtual training.
Okay.
So that with the schedule has been updated or is being updated to show the difference, so that you can see which classes will be virtual only and which ones in the future will be in class.
All right. Okay.
All right.
Thanks
everybody. We appreciate
you.
your taking the time, and Jacob, enjoy your alcohol.
Thanks, everyone. Have a
Okay,
good day.
thank you very much, Jacob. Bye-bye.
Everybody be
Bye-bye.
safe. Thank you.